And welcome back to the special inaugural edition of the Correspondents on Voice of America. I'm Mil Arcega in Washington. Well, as U.S. President Barack Obama says goodbye to the White House, there's a mixed bag of opinions on his foreign policy record. They range from triumphant in the killing of al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden to harsh criticism on the perceived inaction by the president in the face of continuing turmoil in so many parts of the world. VOA White House correspondent Saine has our report.
President Barack Obama has faced a lot of tough questions about the inability of the U.S. to stop the carnage in Syria. Obama takes credit for ending the combat role for U.S. troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, as he vowed to do during his campaign. At least one analyst gives him credit for dealing with a dire situation he inherited from the Bush administration.
The world was very much in turmoil. And he took a situation where we were embroiled in Iraq and Afghanistan with no end in sight to those wars, and he brought them to an end in terms of U.S. military involvement and a large presence of U.S. troops.
Other analysts disagree, saying Obama is leaving the world less secure than he found it.
I think there's no question that there is concern about American withdrawal from the world, American seeming inattention, lack of focus, and lack of commitment and engagement. I think that's true. I see it a lot in the Middle East. I hear it from Europeans. I see it in Asia as well.
And joining us now for more on Mr. Obama's presidential legacy for a record 3 appearances in one show, we're joined once more by a very hardworking White House correspondent, Saine. So, Cindy, thank you for appearing on 3 segments here. So the reviews are kind of mixed right now, but Obama leaves office with one of the highest approval ratings of any president in recent history. Why is he so popular all of a sudden?
Well, you're right, Mil. Some polls have it at close to 60%,
wow,
which is very high. And it's sort of a paradox because we see that former President Obama supported the Democrat in the race, Hillary Clinton, who lost the election. So one would say, well, if people like him and thought that he did such a good job, you know, why was Donald Trump elected? And it's not really quite clear, but I think a lot of people, even if they disagreed with his policies, what they've been telling me is that they think as the first African-American president that he represented the country so well. They love his wife, Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
2
She's
daughters.
got higher approval ratings than the president.
She has even higher than his, and the 2 daughters who were teenagers and grew up in the White House were scandal-free. And a lot of people said that President Obama and Michelle Obama's, that their very public parenting of the 2 girls and balancing the pressures of the office with the family life, that they really like to see that. And I think it's hard to measure now just how great the impact will be of having this African-American
It's a model
first
nuclear family, isn't it, Cindy? But Trump, on the other hand, by contrast, comes in with one of the lowest approval ratings of any incoming president. What does that tell you about the 2 different leadership styles that we see here?
Right, and we've had President Trump in the interim, instead of reaching out and trying to sort of heal the divisions of a very strange and very harsh race, we've had him firing at people on Twitter and seeming to, you know, pick fights with celebrities and that sort of thing. So that has not helped him. Now, we have to wait and see if he gets some successes. I mean, his supporters want different things than his critics want. They want to see tougher immigration policy, for example. So we'll have to see what he does in the first 100 days.
So let's reel this back into President Obama. Where did he succeed, Cindy, and where did he fail?
Well, and that, of course, also depends on where you sit. But many would say, of course, it is historic, his health care reform, which has, you know, about 30 million more people with health insurance. We'll have to see if that stays or not. But many people have it now. And I think the fear of loss or loss aversion is very great. Republicans are now facing, what do we do if we take it away? What do we replace it with? Also, for gay rights, President Obama did a lot, and for sticking up for immigrants, for inclusion, I think a lot of people just felt like that he was on their side.
And Obama probably also gets credit for killing Osama bin Laden. But what about our relations with countries in the Middle East? Does he get serious points deducted for his inaction in Syria, for example?
I think so, Mil. I think it's even been hard for him to defend, and he said that that's what gave him his gray hair, that's what cost him the most loss of sleep, and you just can't. I mean, it's just the carnage has been terrible. The world has not been able to stop it. He's not been able to stop it. He drew the red line and has said over and over again he thought putting U.S. troops on the ground would have made things worse. So that just remains a blot, I believe, on his record.
Are we going to see a different approach towards Islamic State than what President Obama sort of went into? Because President Obama, I guess, has been rightfully criticized for calling Islamic State the JV team, right? Initially underestimating. Did he underestimate Islamic State?
Right. Well, of course, the Obama administration points to successes that the Islamic State, so-called, has lost more than half of its territory in Iraq and a lot of its territory in Syria, that they really no longer have a state to point to. Now, we'll have to see. Trump has said they're going to hit harder as far as taking their oil and hitting and doing things like that, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
Given his popularity, it's likely we have not seen the end of President Obama's career. I thank you, Cindy. We are out of time. You've been watching the Cindy Saine Show on The Correspondents. I hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, stay up to date with the latest news from around the world at voanews.com. You can also watch all of our shows online. Just click on the Watch tab on the upper right. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at VOA The Correspondents. I'm Mil Arcega, and for now, so long from Washington.